I hear more and more students complaining about ADHD and saying that because of that, they are struggling a lot to learn a language. I was recently diagnosed with severe ADHD, and the doctor said that I shouldn't even have been able to finish a school, considering how strong my ADHD is. But I did, and I didn't just finish a school. I also learned 9 languages. I went on to get a PhD in language education. I worked as a translator, as an interpreter, even if I had a lot of issues with language when I was a kid. So if you think that your ADHD is going to stop you from learning a language, think about it again, because I'm living proof that you can learn a language even if you have very severe ADHD like I do. So I'm going to give you my 10 commandments to help anyone with ADHD/an attention problem focus on their language learning and start making progress today. And these 10 commandments are really battle tested by myself. This is what I know works for people like me that have an attention deficit problem. And I have used it with quite a lot of students lately, and it's working really, really well because it gives the structure and it gives the discipline that you need as someone with an attention problem. So let's dive right in. If you are struggling to learn a language, this video was requested by one of the members in my WhatsApp community who is apparently suffering from ADHD and saw one of my posts about the topic and asked me if I could record a longer video. And if you are struggling to learn a language, I recommend that you join my WhatsApp community. It's completely free. I give a lot of insights and answer questions that members of the community have. Now, the first recommendation I'm going to give you, the first commandment, is to always plan everything in advance. When you have ADHD, there is nothing more distracting than not knowing what you're supposed to do next, because then you will find something else to do and it won't be learning. So you're going to have to put extra time into planning your learning so that when you wake up in the morning, you know exactly what tasks you're going to be doing each day. You're not asking your brain to think about what it has to do and then to do it. It just needs to do it. It just needs to act straight away. And that takes me to my recommendation number 2, that it's find the right balance, because I know what ADHD can do to your brain, and I know people like me can get really obsessed with the planning and never actually take action. So people with ADHD, we get what we call paralysis analysis. We tend to overanalyze everything. We tend to want to understand and consider every single consequence and every single option. And sometimes that can be paralyzing. And that means when we have to plan a task, sometimes we want to do such a great job at the planning that we waste all the time planning and we leave no time for action. So my recommendation number 2 is that you are really strategic, really pragmatic, know when you have to draw the line and say, nope, I've planned enough. Now I can go ahead. I need to act. Now it's time to act. My recommendation for that is that you actually set a time for that. You say, I'm going to plan for 10 minutes. And then after 10 minutes are over, whatever the plan looks like, I have to go ahead with it. And I think that's just going to really put you under pressure to come up with something really concrete in those 10 minutes. I think it's Parkinson's law that it says that if you give yourself an hour, you're going to spend an hour doing it. If you give yourself 10 minutes, you're going to spend 10 minutes. So when you're planning, make sure that you set specific amount of time, no more. And after that, you start taking action. Recommendation number 3, related as well to the plan, is that you have to be very realistic with your expectations. People with ADHD, we tend to underestimate the time and effort that things take. And I suffer from that every single day in my calendar. Something I thought was going to take me 10 minutes, it's taken me an hour, and something that I thought it was 1 hour has taken me 3 hours, and that's my morning gone. So for learning, it's exactly the same. What you need to do is to basically think about how long you estimate is going to take, and then multiply by at least 2-3 times. And usually that is a good indication of how long it will realistically take you. Then recommendation number 4 is that you remind yourself of your vision every day. And vision is super important in everything, in life, in sports, but in language learning, it's one of the strongest predictors of success. It's how strong your vision is of you speaking the language. How strongly can you imagine yourself speaking the language, how you feel once you are fluent, once you're able to communicate with other people. And not just how strong your vision is, but how frequently you are revamping that vision and refreshing it in your mind. And we know from research that students that are keeping that vision alive every single day, that are reminding themselves of why it matters and how amazing it's going to feel once they are fluent in the other language and they can speak with people and they can socialize and they can integrate, are going to progress faster and are going to have better chances at success than those that simply don't have a vision or that don't keep that vision alive. And if you're interested in this topic, I will be recording another video, so you may want to subscribe to the channel to make sure that you don't miss it. I've got it all planned out, and I will be explaining in much more detail what you can do to create your vision and to actually maintain that vision throughout the very long, tiresome process of learning a foreign language. Recommendation number 5 is that you have to engineer distraction-free time. You know how dangerous distractions are, and you know what is distracting for you. I think it's quite personal, actually. But if you know certain things are distracting, like your mobile phone, and you know you're gonna sit down to study this language for 30 minutes or for 10 minutes, and you might get notifications from WhatsApp or from Facebook or whatever, and that's gonna distract you, you need to do whatever it takes to block that time distraction free. So put your phone on plane mode, get a nanny for your children, close the door in your room, whatever it takes for you to make sure that if you have decided and blocked time for learning, it's going to be respected. And because you have ADHD, once you concentrate on something, you can progress so much, so fast. So make the most of it. Just engineer the time and the space you need to be able to concentrate, and then it'll become much, much easier. And that takes me to recommendation number 6. You need to test every available solution out there. Honestly, test until you find what works for you. I know some people are really good with the Pomodoro because it gets them in that concentration mode very fast. I personally have found recently some ADHD music that I found extremely, extremely helpful. And it really helps me concentrate when I have to do a task. Within 5 minutes of listening to this music, I'll be like completely focused on the task, which does not happen often when I am just trying to do that by myself. So find your poison, honestly. Find the thing that works for you and then just do that. Do that until it stops working, and then you'll have to find something else. Because that's part of having ADHD as well, isn't it? Now, recommendation number 7, I know it might not be very popular. It's a bit like the carrot and the stick, but I think it works really well for people like us. And it's that you set up regular checkpoints and you reward yourself for any milestones that you have achieved. Now, checkpoints are really important because they are going to allow you to measure progress, and it's going to be motivating for you as well. I think like anyone, not just people with ADHD, we find it really motivating when we see that we have reached a goal that we had, even if it's a tiny one. And then, you know, ADHD is also related to the reward systems in the brain. So it means when something is good, your brain is going to release some dopamine, and that's going to make your brain feel better. Let's back engineer that. Let's use that to give us a little reward when we achieve a little milestone, that it's going to give us a little or a huge dopamine boost that's going to make our brain understand that once we achieve one of those little milestones, we're going to get rewards, we're going to get some more dopamine. So yes, you are doing it just to get your ice cream or to get whatever it is your reward, but it really works because again, you're just using the same medicine that your brain uses against you. Well, now you're using it to hack it to help you work and progress faster. Recommendation number 8 is that you create an accountability system. What do I mean by an accountability system? It's just simply a system probably made of people that are going to keep you accountable for what you have committed to do. And because I know people like us are really good at putting all of these amazing goals and then just not following up, once you tell somebody else that you're going to do something, you are committing to them to do it. And because people with ADHD usually don't like disappointing others, and we care much more about the emotions that others feel for us than how we feel about ourselves, it's actually really, really helpful. And I can tell you a story of one of my clients who is the CEO of a Turkish company. He's learning English, and for his future, English is really, really important. As soon as he can express himself better in English, he can grow his company, and then they can have more money and they can probably move to another country. So learning English for him is not just about, I want to go on holiday somewhere and speak the language. No, this is about literally changing their lives for him and for his family. So he uses his wife as his accountability system. And it's really interesting because he says his wife wants to know what homework we give him. And if he hasn't done his homework or has not practiced every day as per the plan, his wife gets really angry at him. He says there's nothing worse than your wife getting angry at you because you haven't done your homework. Like, that's much more motivating than anything else. So even if he's tired and he doesn't want to do his homework, or he has a plan and he's just like, today I can't do it, then he knows what's going to happen. And because his wife is going to be so mad at him, he'll just go and do it even if he's half asleep. I'm not saying you have to go at such an extreme, but it's just to show you that it's really, really powerful and that you may want to consider something like that. Sometimes it's just committing on social media and saying on Instagram, I'm going to do a challenge for 30 days and I'm going to record every day what is happening. Even just that sometimes really helps to motivate you to complete the actions, even on days that you would just not do it because you're really not feeling like it. These kind of accountability systems really take you beyond I don't feel like doing it today to I have to do it because I don't want to disappoint other people. I know when you explain this to someone who has no ADHD, they think we are crazy, but unfortunately that's the way our brains work, and if we know it, we might as well take advantage of it. At least that's how I see it. Recommendation number 9 is that you try to make every learning task really, really dynamic. If you are concentrated on something and you're really enjoying it, okay. But don't force yourself to do a task for too long if you see that it's just not really motivating you, because that's going to be counterproductive. What we want you is to find tasks that you really enjoy, that get you on that flow, on that moment of pure concentration, and that are going to allow you to learn really fast. If you start doing a task and you feel straight away that you're bored and that this isn't motivating you, stop it. Like, you don't do it anymore. You change, you do another task. And once you find tasks that are really adapted to how your brain works and how your brain wants to learn languages, then you double down on those. And of course, this applies to everyone. But when you have ADHD, this is even more important because your brain is going to send the message that we don't like this task, and this task is language learning, therefore we don't like language learning. So every time you want to sit down to do some language learning, your brain is going to remember that and going to be like, no, it was boring, we really didn't enjoy it. While if you do the opposite, if every time you sit down you get in that amazing status of flow where you're really enjoying the learning, that's going to motivate you to do more of that. And frankly, the more you do of it, the better you're going to get and the faster you're going to learn. So that is definitely what we want. And this is really important as well. Like, sometimes the students focus on trying to study for an hour per day and they really struggle with that. Well, look, if 1 hour is too much for your concentration levels, fine, make it 10 minutes 3-4 times per day. I prefer you doing 10 minutes 3-4 times per day than saying I'm going to do an hour every day and then after 10 minutes you're going to quit, and then it's going to be so frustrating then you're not going to do it the day after, and that you're basically just going to stop learning. 10 minutes is super achievable, it's short, it's nice, you can do it, and then another 10 minutes later on, and then another 10 minutes and another 10 minutes. What we really need to make sure is that you are not reinforcing a negative loop in your brain with the dopamine, telling the brain that learning a language is boring and we don't like it. Like, completely the opposite. We need to reinforce a positive loop that is fun, it's dynamic, we enjoy it, we can do it, we have these little milestones that we keep reaching and then having like little rewards. That is what you're looking for. And this takes me to the last recommendation, which is that learning has to be very enjoyable. You know what tasks and what topics you enjoy and what kind of materials. You know it because you know yourself. You need to plan according to what you enjoy. Forget about textbooks, forget about anything that it's not adapted to how your brain learns. And again, this applies to everyone, but even more so to people with an attention problem. You have to find things that really work for you. If you enjoy watching videos, then you're going to be learning the language through videos. We're going to have to put in place some techniques and some adjustments so that you can actually learn and not just spend time watching videos that you can't understand. Or I don't know, if you really like cooking, then we're going to try to learn through cooking because there's a lot of things we can do with that and a lot of language you can develop. Whatever it is that you like, whatever the topics, the materials, we need to incorporate them into the learning. Because as I was saying, it's just about that positive loop. And if you enjoy the materials and the tasks and the activities, that positive loop is just going to get stronger and stronger, and it's going to push you towards success. While if you keep doing what you're doing up until now, you're going to stay stuck in that negative loop where you really don't know how to keep progressing, and it's all getting very frustrating, and you're associating all of those frustrating feelings with the language, which is really bad. So I hope these 10 recommendations were useful. Let me know in the comments which one you find most useful or which one you are ready to try today. Because again, the most important thing is not watching a million videos on YouTube about how to learn languages with ADHD. The most important thing is that you take action today. So take these 10 recommendations and think, how can you incorporate them to your learning today? I hope you found this video interesting. I hope it opened your eyes a little bit to the fact that yes, you can learn languages even if you have ADHD. That is not a problem. Yes, you're going to have to learn in a different way, but it's perfectly fine. You know, we all have our own issues and we just have to deal with them. So see these recommendations as a shortcut, as a way of dealing with an attention problem that many people have. You have two options. You can let your attention problem block you from learning and from reaching your goals and your dream of speaking a foreign language. Or you can start putting all of these recommendations into practice today and making sure that in a few months, your situation is going to be completely different from where you are today, because you will be able to plan your learning, you'll be able to follow up, you'll be on a positive loop of reinforcement where you enjoyed your learning and you are making the most of every practice session, no matter how short it is. Remember, taking action beats complaining every single day. So make sure that you take action today. Not tomorrow, not next week, today. Now, if you enjoyed this video, I recommend that you watch this other video next, because I am covering the 7 most important universal principles of how the brain learns languages. So for someone with an attention problem, if you combine the 10 recommendations I've just given you with the 7 principles that I explain in that video, and you put them together, that's going to make a huge difference to your language learning progress. So check that video, try everything I've told you today, and let me know how it goes.